Hi, welcome back, and due to popular request, well, from one person, hi Pierre, here is the setup for the ball and plasma effect, where the ball is hovering over a reflective plane, so you get to see it twice, I guess, and the plasma over the top. Now it's playing back at 25 frames per second or 24 frames per second pretty quickly because, of course, it's just a simple image texture over the top of a single plane that's on a very dense array. And you can see here in the 3D Y view that it's a very, very dense array, but it has a modifier on it. So see the previous tutorial for how to set up the array on a following a curve, and you can see the modifiers on the side here for this plane, textured plane. You'll notice that the last modifier is this displace modifier. And if I turn that off, you can see that it's just a simple light streak effect going around the ball. And it looks like it's going around the ball, but it's actually going through the ball. But you can't tell, really. And if I turn on the displace, I'm now crinkling up all of these arrayed images as a single object. You can see that it's distorting it in a random fashion. That's because my texture, if we pop over the texture, is a clouds texture with size 0.8. I can change that size. So it has less displacement or much more displacement. At some point though, it just looks like I've broken the surface up too much. You can get a sort of watery effect like that. And no doubt with geometry nodes, this will be much more artistically driven because you won't be stuck to just driving the texture randomly through some panel. You could have proper fall off and things like that. You could use a vertex group, but the vertex group won't exist because it's on an array. So the vertex group would only be on the plane, so that wouldn't really help very much. Down here, the image texture or the material is quite straightforward. It just comes from the UV coordinate, goes through our mapping node, and the mapping node is animated from a frame driver. If I click on the driver, you can see that it's frame divided by 50 to slow down the motion or the rotation. It goes through our dots shape for this node. This is what I'm feeding through it. And because it's rotating and it's using a flat shape, you're getting these very clean edges. If I change that to a box map with blend turned on, I'll just stop that so I can update, you don't get the clear contrasting edges anymore. So if I pop that back to flat, you can see that it's much more obvious what's happening as it rotates through this flat plane image. Of course, you can still paint over this, so I could add more lines. Or thin out the lines quite a lot. You just paint away until you get the desired result, and modify your rotation to accentuate more of these lines in a different manner. Almost a smoky effect. Of course, you can also change the density of the array for a different effect. Increase that maybe to 0.05, and it gets broken up. But also the performance increases quite a lot. You can increase the displacement quite a bit to get a different kind of effect. I have a hue saturation node here, so I can wind through different color values if I like. Of course, you could do that with painting as well. Unfortunately, with this effect, you don't really get reflections or certainly light emission, even though it's using an add shader. Even if I change it to an emission, it won't actually project light into the scene because this is not a ray tracer, this is just with Eevee. Certainly the add shader seems to be a bit easier to work with than the principled BSDF. Just the way that it treats the stacked planes with the with the texture. In the principal BSDF, you can still tend to see through it, but if we change back to the add shader, you can see that it's not quite as bad with the segmentation of the planes. Of course, if you do see, if you're at an angle where you can still see the planes made out of the array, you can always increase their density just by changing this offset a bit more. So we go 0.5, and it gets much denser. You'd have to change your brightness values, but you can get a lot closer when you do that. There you go. So I hope that was informative, and I'd be fascinated to see if anybody can make actual interesting plasma effects with this, or lightning effects. That'd be really cool. Thanks for watching.